What's up, everyone? It is 2 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon, which means you're tuning in to Cannabis Legalization News. I'm producer Lauren, and today we're joined by Kim Barker from CKSoul to dive into the world of CBD. But first, we do have to get into a little bit of cannabis legalization news. So, Tom and Miggy, what's going on?
Hey, not too much. Fresno is going to be open for applications here soon.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that weird? Like, you figure like California may have legalization everywhere, right?
Oh, yeah.
No, they don't. Like, that was one of the interesting things about it is like, half of California still basically has it prohibited. So I'm not sure if that's kind of how it is in Washington State, where maybe like 50% of the counties don't have a dispensary or a grow. How is it over there?
Well, we do moratoriums, or the city does. So they'll be like, okay, no one's allowed. Whereas we've talked before with other California residents where they're kind of like little zones, right? Like little entities.
Right. And so Fresno is going to allow several licenses. I want to say over 20 of these cannabis business zones and cannabis business. There's several licenses that you have to get, and then there's a conditional, and then you'll have to get it registered with the state. So it's very, very similar to what you're seeing, and you even have like social equity built into it. So it's really similar to what you see in Illinois. So yeah, I shot a video on that.
Neat.
And it looks neat. And so like I'm glad that still like California still's got like 50% of it that needs to legalize, because a lot of the municipalities opted out or didn't vote for it. And so Fresno is going to start allowing cannabis business.
I think California is kind of like a representation of America, right? Where overall Americans can agree like, hey, we want marijuana legal for whatever reason, medical or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then, it's divided up into like my little fiefdom. Like,
yeah. Well, in Illinois, I mean, like Illinois is like setting the licenses themselves at the state level. So you win at a state level, and then you kind of have to have participation from the local level. You have to have the appropriate zoning, and so they have to let you do it. But it's just backwards in California. And then in Illinois, like a community can say that they don't want to have any cannabis businesses in their city limits, and that's fine. But you know what they can't do?
Put you in jail for it?
Ban hemp farming. We won that case last week. So yeah. Yeah. Victory for hemp as opposed to hemp for victory. So in Illinois, you cannot ban hemp farming. At least a non-home rule community cannot ban hemp farming. And maybe there's going to be an appeal. That's what I was working on before we came on here. I have a bankruptcy appeal that's coming up that I'm not on lead with. I'm not doing, but you still have to work.
What does that mean though, non-home ruling?
Non-home rule is a type of authority that a municipality has in Illinois. And so we have two types in our Constitution. One is called a home rule, and that has a police power, and one's called a non-home rule, and that only has powers specifically granted to it under the Constitution or under a statutory authority. And it was the silliest little argument that they ever made. They basically claimed that there's this new thing in Illinois called an urban agricultural area, and it didn't exist until 2019. And then the last governor vetoed it, and so like they had to go over his head to veto to get a supermajority to allow it. And basically what it is, it's for urban agriculture. Let's say that you want to grow microgreens in Chicago or in Seattle. You would need probably a variance or some type of zoning special use permit to allow you to engage in agriculture in an area that's not zoned for agriculture, right? And so there was a method created in 2019 for these urban agricultural zones. But this community, Oakland, Illinois, they said that the whole thing was an urban agricultural area, like the whole city. And the reason for that was because in 1968, they passed their zoning laws. And I'm like, no, that's literally not how a law works. You don't get the time machine. There's no DeLorean. You don't go back in time to like 1968 and have it retroactively apply unless that's specifically in the statute. Like how in Illinois, their cannabis law, it came with that expungement aspect. See, like if they didn't have that, then that thing wouldn't have happened. And so like it wouldn't have applied retroactively. They had to create that expungement protocol. And so that was great news for hemp farming. It's legal completely in Illinois, obviously, as it had been.
Yeah. Is there plant limits on that?
Oh, no, there's not plant limits, but you just need to make sure that you draw on the map. So there's GIS because they're trying to get data. It's like an agricultural commodity. So now they want to get data regarding like how much was farmed, what the yield was, what strains they're using, so that just like any other agricultural commodity, whether it's corn, wheat, or cotton, then they're going to be able to collect data so that they can get crop insurance. And then they can make markets. And so there's going to be some hemp commodity markets that are probably going to get kicked off in Chicago here pretty quick, because that's commodity futures, and the futures markets traditionally come out of Chicago. Okay. The options are priced from Chicago, like, Black-Scholes options pricing algorithm, 1974, out of Chicago. Yeah. Did you know which one came first, puts or calls?
Oh shit, dude, you're beyond me.
Yeah, never mind. Never mind. That's a Josh question.
I know you're saying English, but yeah.
Right.
But like man, that's just wild though that you can grow hemp now. And I totally just lost what I was going to ask you.
Well, but like in Illinois, hemp growing is real easy, at least for this year. Next year, it's going to get complex, because then that's when the USDA tries to create regularity across the several states.
In that algorithm, I imagine now, I mean, everything's an algorithm, right? Like some sort of formula they're trying to figure out. For that one, when the cannabis or hemp rather, how are they going to factor in testing hot? Like that's going to be a huge. No other product has that.
Oh, it's so stupid, and like it's the most detrimental. And like not only are you not allowed to remediate a hot test, you have to destroy a hot test, and you're not going to be able to insure a hot test. So it's really supremely, punitive toward the farmer for no good reason at all. If your stuff tests hot, then you should be under an embargo. To like, oh, can't move it, bring in the machines, and then you start extracting it, and then you get it into CBD and THC, and then you spin out the THC, so it's just pure, because that's the difference, and our guest is going to know this about CBD. There's a difference between broad spectrum CBD and full spectrum CBD. One of them is only CBD. So there's no reason why they have to expose farmers to prison, to losing their crop, to not being able to get insurance for that crop, as opposed to, oh, you tested hot? It's under embargo until you can bring that into compliance. Seriously? And then you have to process it on site, and then you have to get a test that passes. Then you have salvation. I mean, you have a law that makes way more sense, as opposed to a law that is still this onerous punishment mentality that we have in cannabis.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine looking at, like, say, your crop, and you're like, okay, this is going to be my $200,000 profit crop, and then it's hot, and you're like, well, now it's garbage. Not
only that, but then like if it's too hot, Johnny Law might come calling and be like, you did that intentionally. Yeah. And that's so stupid. In the USDA regs, like intentionality is kind of like presumed after like 0.5% THC. And that's why you're going to see this huge shift over to CBG and CB whatever seeds next year, because they want to ensure their compliance on that 0.5 absolute max cutoff, which is ridiculous. We talked and guys, friends of the show, please do tune in on Sunday. We had to tape it because I'm moving out of Chicago, whatever. And so we had to tape a great episode regarding the UK cannabis laws, and it's fascinating. So make sure you tune in on Sunday for learning all sorts of stuff.
And did you see the what's going on in the House today?
Does this have to do with the Attorney General?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you share your screen regarding the Attorney General's aspects? Yeah. So what does Marijuana Business Daily report regarding the prosecutor, Attorney General Barr, ordered politically motivated probes of cannabis mergers? Man, as if cannabis companies weren't already burning cash and had enough problems. Now you have Attorney General Barr with politically motivated reviews of 10 marijuana business mergers.
And I just sent the link as well to the actual hearing, because you can watch it live right now. Which, it's the great thing about being an American. Some of our process is right there for you to see, to actually witness. And these yahoos, when they started mentioning cannabis, and oh man, this guy from Georgia, the priest, or the man, it's just the way he was talking about it was the most ignorant. Like
he clearly has no idea what he's talking. It's just, it's exactly like when the abortion cases from 50 years ago, when you just had the Senate was just all white men, and they're like, I don't understand what this chattel is about. We're talking about women, so they're no longer property. No, they haven't been property for years.
Yeah, well, it looks like we went back to 1950 anyway, so or at least the present administration.
68.
Shit.
Yeah.
But what other news you got? Anything else going on?
Other than that, that's about it. Looks like we're a few more weeks out from getting the winners and finding out how many people have tied. So we're creating some general counsel, outside GC is what they call it, policies for our potential clients, so that when we have these winners announced or these losers announced or people get their scores, it'll be like, yes, we can help you review. And then we have a very short window to be able to get in and see if we can get them into the lottery before the lottery probably pops off in September, maybe, because they have final rules, and final rules take so long to be effective.
Oh, right on. Yeah, no, I just think it's going to be great to talk to our guests here about the CBD company, plus also the origins, because, as we talked with our guest from England, is how CBD has influenced the legalization conversation. The Canna Kids conversation, that early on during the time with like Charlotte's Web, all these kids were getting sick, and were part of the moving the conversation forward for us.
They were, man. Let's get into it. Let's start talking about CBD.
Absolutely. Hey, Kim, what's going on?
Hi, everyone. How are you today?
Pretty good. Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about CKSoul?
Sure. So CKSoul is a California-based cannabis company. So we have products that range from that are THC and CBD derived from cannabis. We have recently rebranded. So we've been around for almost 6 years. We formerly went under the name Canna Kids, as that was where we were inspired to really start in this industry. And just recently on 4/20, we launched our new brand, CKSoul, which we really went through changing the name of our company, really to appease and to be reflective, to reach a broader audience. We did get a lot of kind of pushback from the dispensary world and regulators on having kids in the name when it was relating to cannabis. So we really wanted to make a decision to make sure that we could provide this plant medicine across a broader spectrum and really engage with, patients and consumers of all ages and all ailments and needs.
Yeah, we're always really careful with because if I'm going to do an informative lesson regarding like trim ratios or like a dry trim, wet trim, anything like that, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to list that video as being, 18 plus, not for kids. And then I'm also going to put disclaimers in there that say, like, comply with your laws. I'm a medical patient. This is a legal medical grow. And this is just done for informational purposes only. But then in the Illinois, and I would assume maybe after Prop 64 in California, there's limitations. And so like cannabis isn't legal if you're less than 21, and then there's restrictions regarding, like, I'm kind of surprised the cookies strain has made it into Illinois, to be honest, simply because there's restrictions against how you can brand products that would appeal to youngsters. And so what is more appealing to youngsters than cookies? And well, it's true. And so like, Fruity Skittles, Runts, like they're naming their strains. And I'm not saying they aren't great strains. I'm not saying they aren't great at what they do, but they're naming them in such a way that when I'm reading the law and I'm like, I really wouldn't I wouldn't recommend my clients create strains that are like that, because I just look at the regulations and be like, guys, does that appeal to kids? Well, I don't know. I loved Runts when I was a child.
Well, I mean, we had to go so far when California legalization took place here. We had to go so far as to go all the way to the BCC to get approval for our name. And to be honest, like when we would walk into dispensaries to have them carry it on our shelves, we would have to show them that letter because they were, just as you said, so concerned about the fact that we had the kid name in our name as a brand, and as you guys are aware, here in California, there are similar laws in terms of how we cannot market to children, specifically when we get into like edibles and things like that. We can't have any shapes that would look like something that a child might like or anything like that. And you can't put pictures on the branding.
No Joe Camel. No, not allowed to do that now. No.
No, we're not allowed to do that. So, it did handcuff a lot. It did handcuff us.
What about, because that was one of the things we spoke about at the top of the show. It looks like Fresno, California is going to finally allow adult use businesses into its jurisdiction. How is it in California? Because you're joining us from which city in California?
I'm in LA.
So you're joining us from LA, pretty much a very cannabis friendly area.
Yes.
But the rest of the state, is it really about like 50-50 is still basically illegal?
Yes. I mean, there's so many areas that we cannot service a patient or a consumer here in California. When you look at the numbers of retail outlets that we have, it's so small compared to other states that don't have as much of a population as we do.
Yeah.
So we're on par about the same as Colorado right now for the whole state.
Wow.
California and Colorado is about the same in terms of the number of dispensaries.
But like the you guys have at least 9 times, I think, because I think Colorado is approximately like 5.5 million. Because I'll look at them relative speaking to see like what the market opportunity may be when I'm creating my business plans, my pro formas for my teams. And so California, that's fascinating in the sense that it's about 40 million people, but then if only about half of that is able to be in a legal area, there's still like half of California to legalize. It's just mind blowing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not only that half piece, but actually the number of dispensaries, even in the legal areas, is a lot lower. I mean, so, the California cannabis, market, as you guys are well aware, we've definitely been plagued with a number of challenges through this legalization process.
Kim, are you guys available across state lines or just in California?
Currently, we are just available in the state of California because we are a cannabis-based company. So our CBD products that are derived from cannabis are only allowed to be sold in a dispensary. We are in R&D right now for a hemp line for hemp CBD, so that can be presented across the entire United States. So we're really excited to move in that direction going forward.
Neat.
So then you guys do extractions.
Yes.
And you're familiar with the extractions. So you know that just because somebody tested hot doesn't mean that you have to ruin their entire crop. Like you can treat it. So like, do you know that there's such a thing called broad spectrum CBD? What is broad spectrum CBD?
Well, I mean, if we go back one step, and if we go into full spectrum extracts are often what is called the whole plant extract. So that maintains the full profile of everything that was in the plant. So all the cannabinoids, THC, THCA, CBD, CBDA, CBG, CBN. I mean, there's thousands of different cannabinoids out there today, and we're still really learning about all the different cannabinoids out there. And so definitely there is a need for more and more research regarding those cannabinoids. And as well as in a full spectrum, it also takes in all those natural terpenes that are found in the plant that have medicinal benefits as well. So when you get into broad spectrum, that takes out some of those pieces to leave you with what you can use depending on, what kind of product you want to produce or where you are in terms of legalization or different laws regarding it.
I would like to say I'm really happy to hear that you guys are a full plant extract as far as you can't cross state lines. For one, I'm familiar with Tracy Ryan's story. Canna Kids was one, like I said earlier, I think in green screen, whatever, that the sick kids were the great conversation starter that helped turn this around. Before Charlotte's Web, there was Cashy Hyde. Parents will do anything to help their sick kid. And at that same time where all these parents were speaking up and being mad as a parent, you also had grifters and people who were just kind of coming in and trying to ride, you questioned if that was a legit person, taking care of the kids. And, seeing Tracy's story and how you guys are converting the branding, which makes more sense. But, Canna Kids kind of started out as just a Facebook group. She was. Yeah, it
was an underground Facebook group really designed, as you just said, for mothers or parents who were looking for options and treatment protocols that could work for their very sick children. I mean, I know for myself as a mother and as a dad, I mean, we would really do. I mean, who wouldn't do anything to save their child and look at all the options that are available to us. As in today's day and age, whether you are a parent or if it's even for yourself or even for your elderly parents, we have to be medical advocates for ourselves and for the people that we love and we take care of. And so that means doing your own research, finding out what are the options available, whether they are traditional Western medicine or if they're, or if there's something different. And, I think that's how Canna Kids really got started, that there was just this sheer amount of people that were desperate to find alternatives to treatments for very, very sick children. I mean, I'm not one to spout off a lot of statistics or things like that, but there's only been 4 new pediatric cancer drugs that have been introduced in like the last 40 years.
Wow.
And oftentimes, and the amount of money that goes into pediatric cancer research is so minute compared to, the rest of, cancers that are out there, that, these Western medical protocols are often filled with things that actually start to harm your body. And who wants to harm a child at the very least? So finding, things that can complement those type of treatments, as well as, hopefully be a preventative in the future once you're done with those type of treatments.
So who was, did you have one of the Canna Kids?
I'm sorry?
Well, there's these Canna Kids that are out there. So was one of the Canna Kids yours? And if so, what was your relationship with the Canna Kids organization? And tell us that story.
Sure. I've been with CKSoul, Canna Kids, which is now CKSoul, for about 8 months now. I've known Tracy for some time. We met in various cannabis circles, and I was really brought into the organization to help propel the brand into this next era, which is where we are today. But truly, Canna Kids is still as CKSoul. Our inspiration really comes from Sophie. Sophie is Tracy Ryan's daughter. The founder's daughter. And Sophie was diagnosed with brain cancer at 8.5 months old. And as a mother, like I would do, she really, Tracy started really looking at the opportunities and the options for what type of treatment would be best for Sophie. Yes, there she is. Thank you. And so Sophie was part of the Weed the People documentary on Netflix.
Oh, wow.
Through Ricky Lake. So if you haven't checked that out, I would strongly suggest watching that documentary on Netflix. And actually, Sophie took her first dose of cannabis on that documentary at just 9 months old. So, Sophie's been considered a medical miracle for many, many years. The type of cancer that she has is a slow growing type of tumor that typically does not respond well to traditional cancer treatments such as chemotherapy. However, the only Western type of therapy available for this type of cancer is chemotherapy. There are children just like Sophie who have that similar type of brain cancer that have been on chemo for 10, 12, even 16 years, because that is the only way that modern medicine, Western medical, has been known to treat it. So Sophie has gone through chemo for about 7 years in combination with her THC and CBD protocol. And we're very happy to say for the first time in 7 years that Sophie is off of chemotherapy and she is considered stable. And she continues to take CBD and THC. The CBD and THC is used, she uses those for seizures that she has given the brain tumor because the tumor is still there. But the best thing, and I'm not the medical expert, Tracy really is, and I know she loves talking about it. So she, hopefully maybe you guys can bring her on to talk more about that as well in the future. But Tracy, Sophie's immune system is also one of the healthiest of that it's been tested is healthier than adults that have not gone through chemo. If you look at Sophie, you would never imagine that she's a child that's been on chemotherapy for 7 years. I mean, she has a great head of hair. She's never lost her hair. She's She's active, she's learning, she's right where her peers are, and she's just really full of life, and you know, she's she's a joy to be around.
That's fascinating. I mean, so like we are just flooded in this market with so many different various CBD products. And then you hear stories like that and you're like, okay, that person's clearly getting the real medicine. So what would be important to look for when reviewing like a product? Like, is there anything we should look out for on the label or what?
Well, I mean, I think anytime we're dealing with children, again, that is a, you know, a little bit of a different animal. As everybody knows, cannabis is different for every single person. What might work for me might not work for you, and it is a bit of a trial and error type of product that's out there, and medicine. So for children, we always recommend that children, parents of children, should get a caregiver recommendation. So that is something that they can go through in the state of California. They can go through the state to get that. So through a licensed cannabis doctor provides that type of service, and they can recommend cannabis for children through that process. So, you know, it's very important that you take the necessary legal steps so that, one, you are protecting your child as well as protecting yourself for a product, as you guys have said, is not legal for children, people under age 21.
I'm always curious about sourcing. Like, do you know, like, if what specific strains are being used, or if there's a specific garden or whatever for your guys' product?
Sure. In our product line from CKSoul is a tincture line. So we have 8 different tinctures and then 2 extracts that we provide. So we go through a pretty rigorous testing of looking at making sure that the profile of the plant is what we need to produce the type of plant-based medicine that we want to give out to the consumers out there at large. So we look at the cannabinoid profile. So all of our products have at least 4 different cannabinoids in them, whether that be THC, CBD, CBDA, THCA, CBN. So we want to make sure that it has a good, rich amount of cannabinoids in it to be able to give those benefits to you when you put that in your body. As well as the other thing that we do is we add in natural terpenes back into the tincture bottles. So as everybody knows, you know, the cannabis plant has naturally occurring terpenes in them, but we know that those terpenes are packed full with medicinal benefits, and we want to make sure that you're getting the most inside your body at once. So we pack in additional natural terpenes into those bottles. Nice.
And then do you think the effects of an adult versus child are different when it comes to CBD?
Absolutely. I mean, think about, you know, you versus me. I mean, I would have a different reaction, than you. So I think, you know, as anything, you know, we always tell, patients that they should start small and start, you know, with a little bit and then titrate up, and really kind of, you know, make sure that they keep track of their dosing so they can see how they're being effective. I know for myself, I have an autoimmune disease. So I take CBDA, which is our support product, which is an acid-based product, which is a little different than other products. And so CBDA is really known for its benefits with inflammation in particular. So for me, I was taking it just one big dropper every single day. But then when I started to write down how I was feeling, I realized that I needed to take a little bit about 3 times a day. So, you know, everybody's going to be different. So, and children are the same.
So that's interesting. You are talking about the CBDA, the acid variety of it. So it has not been decarboxylated. Do you guys have some extracts and some tinctures that have the THCA as well?
Yeah, so we have what I would consider 2 specialty products, a CBDA, our support, and our Serenity THCA. So are you guys, would you like me to talk about a little bit about the acid process?
You can talk about the decarboxylation. We're hip to it.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting because most of the consumers out there really don't understand what an acid-based process is. So pretty much what we do is take the whole plant, that whole beautiful cannabis plant, and we put that into olive oil, okay? And we soak it at a low temperature for a couple of days, and then we strain it all out. And so what's left is the true properties of what was in the plant. So you get all of those things that we talked about that was in a full spectrum type of product. You get all the different cannabinoids and all of the natural terpenes. So and it doesn't have the psychoactive effects that you would find in a THC based product and CBD. I mean, some people do experience some light psychoactivity from CBD depending on their tolerance level. So, but with an acid based product, that is really taken out of the picture.
Wow. What do you think there's good ways for the child to medicate? Like, what kind of ways do you recommend?
Obviously, we want, when we're dealing with a child based on their medical recommendation of what type of products would work for them, we see that most of the children are taking it in a tincture format, because that tincture format they can actually either take directly into their mouth, or it can be put into a smoothie or applesauce or yogurt or anything of that nature. So that's a very easy way for them to take that product.
What about, because these people are sick, and so they might be on other medications. Is there anything that's going to impact, like mixing CBD with other medications?
Well, absolutely. Just like CBD and cannabis is considered a medicine, we have to make sure that there's not going to be any reactions. So one of the things that we do is we have a network of doctors and nurses that we recommend to consumers and patients to consult with, to make sure that whatever type of medicine that you're on from maybe a Western medical protocol for maybe chemo treatment or cancer treatment, that the type of CBD and THC that you're taking actually will not interact with it, as well as they will give you guidance of when you should take it. Should you take it when you're taking your chemo drugs? Should you take it after, before, all of those type of things? But there are certain medical professionals out there that are designed to really help navigate this very crazy or this, areas that are unknown to most of us. And because that plant is so different for everybody, and everybody reacts differently, it's very, very important that you seek that medical advice.
One of the importance, I think, when Canna Kids and Tracy was doing this, she created this network of support for parents who are not only have sick kids, but also who have the threat of CPS lingering over them. What do you think is a worry for CPS and when you're treating your kids in California right now?
I think, though, that I would say that that's one of the reasons that we highly recommend that people go through the cannabis caregiver recommendation process. That is really designed to protect the child and protect the parent, and to make sure that you've gone through the necessary steps and you are knowledgeable and you understand what exactly that you're getting into when you step into doing alternative medicine.
Yeah, so you're really making sure that they comply with both the laws so that they can get their medicine appropriately, but then also work in conjunction with their doctors so that they are getting the proper dosage as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's nurses and doctors out there that specialize in cannabis recommendation and dosing. As you guys are probably aware, the California cannabis laws really do tie our hands as a brand as to what we can say and what we can't say. We really can't get into a dosing advice. We can't say, Joe, you need to take X amount every single day, and this is going to cure you of this. We cannot say that. But what we can do is help our consumers and help anybody really across the United States, if they call into us or talk to us, help them, guide them into the way that they can do it the right way.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, so then one of the things, though, with your brand, just from a business standpoint, I would wonder, are you going to have growth problems simply because it seems as if you are tailoring to the people that need it the most? And isn't it just a very small minority of people that actually have these types of health conditions that can really be benefited by, high quality, properly dosed cannabinoids?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons that we have gone through a rebrand, that we went from CannaKids to CKSoul, is to make sure that we can open this up to a broader base, consumer base, because not only are our products that have been designed for that medically fragile consumer, whether they be, have cancer or epilepsy. We've seen results with Parkinson, and we've had great success with our THCA products in the autism community. But we wanted to make sure that people of all ages and all walks of life, wherever they are in their wellness journey, could have access to products that are safe, two, formulated to make sure that you're getting the most out of plant medicine that you could possibly get. So we have consumers of all walks of life using our product now. And that's one of the biggest reasons that we went through the rebrand from CannaKids to CKSoul, was to ensure that people of all ages would really look at the product and know that it's great stuff within the bottle.
I love that you call it a wellness journey, because I mean, that's really what it's about. You can't say, here, smoke indica only, it'll make your day better. I mean, of course, for me, everything helps my case of the Mondays. But, one of the things, though, like the things that you've seen at Treat, can your product help with teething? Would you treat a baby like that?
Well, I would kind of go back to that medical, the medical caregiver, and understanding what you're really doing. As a parent, you have to do your research. Certainly there's probably not enough research out there on the different cannabinoids and benefits and effects on children. So we do need to make sure that the research is there and the research continues. One of our cornerstones as a company is that we are committed to research and we are committed to education. So that is something that we strive for and we work towards. We've been involved in many research studies across the United States as well as in Israel. So, I think that's a hard one. I mean, we would never recommend somebody to put something into a child's body without doing the necessary research and having the necessary caregiving recommendations for that.
Yes, but the wellness aspect, as you get older, you start falling apart, and people want more and more wellness as they get older. That's something that it's kind of like wealth. You can never have, well, you can have enough, but like with the wellness, it's like, if you're healthy, why aren't you lucky? Don't you want to stay that way?
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, like, we believe that, people should be taking CBD and THC on a regular basis for their overall wellness.
Yeah. That's how I like to use mine. And then, it might take me a day or two to get through a whole joint, but then, you keep yourself healthy by making sure that your cannabinoid system is functioning properly. And so I rarely get sick. I think I look pretty good for 40. And you enjoy it too. It's this beautiful plant that's there that can help you. And then it's fun to grow.
Yeah.
Exactly. I consider it my fountain of youth because I have a very large birthday this year, which I'm not too excited about.
Well,
and it's older than yours. So it's the big.
Yeah, you see, keeps you young.
Yep.
Because it helps you with stress and it helps your body like maintain homeostasis. At least that's what I've been told from people that understand the cannabinoid system better than me.
Yeah. It is a definitely, as I've been in this industry for close to 11 years now. And the knowledge, where my knowledge started to where my knowledge is today is obviously has grown a lot, but there's still so much that even I don't know. And I'm learning every single day, especially on the scientific side and the research side.
Yeah, it's too bad that we really don't do that here in America because of our laws. A lot of it comes from Israel.
Well, we're also focused on the high THC bullshit. We were just talking last week. I got some CBD flower that was cheap because it was CBD, and I felt like a kid again. Back was getting good. It was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah, just because it doesn't get you high doesn't mean it might not help you feel better.
Well, exactly about like when I talked about the acids, our THCA, the Serenity THCA is one of our most popular tinctures that we have out there. And it's really because there's no psychoactive effects to that. And, people get a sense of calm and, it reduces stress. It helps with sleep. And that is the product that has been the most successful in the autism community, whether they're children or adults, as well as ADHD, OCD, all of those type of ailments that affect a large portion of our our population at large, especially
Yeah,
OCD.
but then they hear THC and they're like, oh, bad. Even though you put the A on there, but then they hear Adderall or Ritalin, AKA basically meth, low doses, and they're like, oh, here you go, Jimmy. Don't forget your pills, and they give it to you. It's just so mind-boggling. It's like, no, you realize this is THCA. The body isn't 225 degrees or whenever the decarboxylation temperature is. It's not going to get them high, and they're like, what?
And I mean, but that goes back to the fact that education is so critical in today's environment, and we really have to, all of us in this community really have to do a continually good job at educating the general consumer out there and the general population, because without that education, they're not going to know. I mean, even still in this industry, some people don't understand that THCA, as a product doesn't have a psychoactivity involved in it. So it's really about education. And we do try as an organization to really focus on that educational value to consumers as a whole.
Well, even the whole, I think it's the dirty word, psychoactive. Like, when I smoke THC and the psychoactive kicks in, I don't think I'm a werewolf. I mean, there's just something that we have to rephrase the feeling that we get when we consume. But, it's about wellness in the end. Each thing for each of us, we're all little snowflakes that walk around, and we got to try to match ourselves up with what fits us.
Exactly, because everybody's body is different and everybody's effects from cannabis is different. And, what is right for you is not right for me. What word would you rather use if it wasn't psychoactivity? What word do you think would work?
I don't know, but if you think about it, the reason why this is such a stigma is when Raphael Mecklin discovered the THC molecule, that was it. That's all they knew. And then okay, we're going to pick this one out because it's psychoactive. Whereas in his reports, the people who had the psychoactive effect were really just eating brownies and giddy. I mean, that was the effect. The word psycho, that's what really just deters me. And then when people say high, it's like heroin high and marijuana high are two different worlds.
They're two different neurotransmitters they're simulating. And I can't remember sometimes, because I don't really research heroin ever, but that endorphin or that is it dopamine that they're simulating, or is dopamine being simulated by cocaine? I also don't do cocaine, so I'm not sure on that. But I thought dopamine and cocaine were like the same type of neurotransmitter. It's THC and anandamide. That's that neurotransmitter, but that wasn't discovered until the early 90s. And then there's heroin, and maybe it's one of those endorphin ones, but I mean, it's just the name of the neurotransmitter is not endorphin.
Yeah, but your body has an endocannabinoid system, not a beer/meth system.
Right.
Well, and that research is very fascinating in terms of what we're learning on an ongoing basis. I mean, I think that's also why you see a lot of the trend in cannabis marketing going to something that's definitely more user friendly in terms of, you see many of these cannabis brands today, even, this is a sleep formula, this is awake, this is relax, this is relief. But it's really designed to really help end that stigma and help the consumers understand more about the plant.
Totally.
No, endorphin is the name of a neurotransmitter. So like heroin is the one that is endorphin. And yeah, cocaine's dopamine. So at least according to drugabuse.org. So I'm assuming they're telling me the truth. I'm sure if I look for the neurotransmitter anandamide, it might not be there.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can we go to support and follow CKSoul?
Sure. You can visit our website, which is www.CKSoul.com, as well as our nonprofit arm is savingsophie.org. That is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the research of cannabis and cancer. So those two places are where you can get started, and all of our social handles are on there as well.
Awesome. We will throw those links in the description. Thank you so much for coming on today. And thanks everyone for tuning in for another episode of Cannabis Legalization News. We will see you on Sunday.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.